It's not possible.
We are talking about The Mummy Rebirth. This one is directed by Justin Price and Khu. Now this one stars Brittany Goodwin as Lara Croft, Daniela. And it actually, I would say, is definitely influenced by the 1999 Brendan Fraser movie, The Mummy. So this is a low budget kind of B-movie, but I've got to say this one has some originality in the fact that I guarantee you've never seen a mummy film that features a kaiju. Oh yes, this one's got it all. So what is the plot? We have a prologue at the beginning of the movie, and we kind of see these kind of, obviously in ancient kind of Egyptian times, two kind of doomed lovers who are ultimately kind of put to the sword and mummified, and this aesthetic definitely reminds me of the kind of like the flashback sequences from the Brendan Fraser mummy movies, because it definitely kind of looks like they're trying to recreate it, almost like it's kind of like one of these sort of inspired by type movies. Anyway, then we cut to a kind of the bulk of the movie, which is kind of set in contemporary times, and we have these kind of two treasure hunters. One is like this Daniela character, and then we have this other character played by an actor simply called Carter. Anyway, and he's kind of like your Indiana Jones. You've got Indiana Jones and you've got your Lara Croft, and they have been hired by this kind of, guy who we know is going to turn into a bad guy. And of course things happen, and the mummy gets resurrected, who has kind of his own agenda, and he is kind of all powerful and seems to have a host of kind of supernatural powers. Twists and turns, CGI monsters, and that's just kind of your movie. So, let's discuss. Now, I saw the trailer for this one a little while ago, and I was kind of on YouTube, and I was kind of reading some of the comments, and it was like, oh my god, the CGI is terrible, blah, blah, it's rubbish, blah, blah, blah. And that, I feel, will be the knee-jerk reaction to a lot of people from this movie. But, this movie, despite the fact that the CGI really does take a lot away from this movie, it's actually kind of fun. This really is quite a rollicking adventure, I will say, with a very low budget scale. Now, I've reviewed a few of Justin Price's movie, and they've kind of been a bit of a mixed bag, if we're being honest. I remember seeing the Elves movie on a lot of people's worst list of 2018 or 17, whenever it came out, and I've got to say, this one though, I feel maybe he has hit his stride. Maybe he was a little bit over ambitious with this one potentially, but I've got to say I thought this was a well-paced film. There's loads of action. We get these two kind of very kind of OTT kind of protagonist characters, very much modelled after kind of Lara Croft on one hand, and kind of like the Brendan, I've forgotten the character's name, from the Brendan Fraser's character from the Mummy movie, him kind of thing. It reminds me of a cross between him, Indiana Jones, and Star-Lord, quite frankly. So we've got these two kind of cocky kind of protagonist adventures. We've got this kind of like clearly kind of evil guy and his henchman, and then the kind of the all-powerful mummy. Everyone is kind of like, very kind of OTT, but a lot of fun. I got to say, this movie was a lot of fun. I was also impressed with the way that the movie has used its location shooting to kind of fool you into thinking some of these kind of location shots may be in kind of like more exotic locations than they actually are. I mean, there is a lot of green screen here, and some of it is painfully obvious, but there are some kind of good location shoots here as well, and kind of set designs that I thought looked pretty good. I mean, there's one that kind of takes place in a museum, and it does legitimately look like a museum. So, I thought that was quite good, and it kind of gives the movie some, some variety, because we see quite a lot of kind of different kind of scenery through the movie, and lots of kind of quite interesting set pieces and stuff as well. The practical makeup in the mummies looks cheap, but I kind of dug it. So there is a lot of CGI, and we'll come on to that. But I actually, when we come to the mummies themselves and the kind of the makeup for them, I actually thought they looked kind of cool. if I'm honest. And there's quite a lot of kind of like mummy attacks. And then we have the introduction of these CGI creatures, which we're going to come on to again. This is where I feel the movie is going to let itself down, though. Now, the design of these creatures, I actually kind of liked. We'll come on to how the actual rendering of them, but the actual design, they kind of remind me of the Kraken from Clash of the Titans. Like I said, the movie itself is a lot of fun. It's quite well paced. Lots happens. There's a few kind of twists and turns, although some of them are relatively obvious. So there's a fair amount going on. But let's talk about. I mean, we have to address the kind of the thing that I feel this movie will get judged on, and that is its very poor CGI. This movie reminds me a lot of a video game in the way that the movie is. These characters, they seem like video game characters, i.e. not real kind of people. They're fun, but they don't really come across as real people. And they're so based, like, of Lara Croft, there's one of them is so obviously kind of based off that. But everyone is kind of a cliche. But the actual story, when we get to the kind of the CGI creatures, and there's more than you're going to expect, they look like early 90s CGI. Big time. I mean, we're talking early 90s made-for-TV movie CGI here. And we have this big kaiju creature at the end of the film. And the way that it's shot is so funny. To save on the animation, what they've done is they've kind of, you'll see it move, and they've kind of just like played it backwards. So you can see it it literally stop and then go back in literally the kind of the same direction, and it's gone in the same movement. So and then it kind of does that. It's so funny because it looks so obvious. But I appreciated the attempt of having some massive monster, and there's a couple of times they try to make it blurry to kind of hide the CGI. But it's not even this big monster. We have these kind of other ones as well. These kind of like smaller ones that we see a bit earlier on. And it's just silly. This movie gets extremely silly at times. I mean, we have these kind of creatures attack our kind of protagonists, and then just hold them on the ground and kind of look at them. Whilst if it was any kind of red shirt character, they would be kind of like killed off straight away. But no, our kind of main characters are protected by plot armor, and so these things just stand on them and kind of look down at them and go, ready to get rescued. And then we kind of have just again the CGI is kind of where the mummies are exploding. CGI muzzle flashes, stuff like that. It's all super obvious and very, very kind of like cheap looking. There is a lot of CGI here, so I would have maybe thought it would have been better to have less minutes of CGI, but a better quality of what we do. And then we have to talk about some of the acting. Now, I didn't mind some of the kind of our kind of main characters here, because they're just OTT kind of fun, slocky B-movie stuff. And if you can accept that that's what this movie is, then you'll just kind of appreciate it for what it's trying to do. But some of the extras here are just hilariously bad. The way they're kind of like holding their guns, for example, and kind of like looking around and stuff like that. It's so hilariously overacting. So I mean, our main characters are kind of overacting, but you get it with the tone of the film. They're trying to be campy, trying to be cheesy, so I get it for them. But our extras and kind of even some kind of smaller sort of speaking parts are just silly. And even the way that some of them are dressed, like we have our kind of, I guess, our second in command baddie, this woman who's got like a skin tight leotard like camo thing. It's just a little silly, really. It goes a little bit too silly in times. So I feel this movie will probably get just rubbished because it kind of the visuals will look so poor in regards to some of this CGI. But if you can look past that, I actually think this movie is kind of fun. Ridiculous plot that kind of goes all over the place and really just it's a bunch of conveniences. But it rattles on at a fair old pace with very OTT characters that are kind of end up being quite fun despite their kind of like their clichéness. Some kind of like some fairly good, although cheaply shot, but action sequences and set pieces, some great locations and some interesting ideas. So this is a lot going to be a personal choice, I feel. Although I don't think this is necessarily a good movie, I think it's a fun one. And if you like schlocky B movies, then then maybe check it out. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.